Fatiha. السلام عليكم أعوذ بالله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله محمد سيدنا مدد يا رسول مدد يا سلام أصحاب رسول الله مدد يا مشاهد دستور ولا إن شاء الله فرد أصحاب محمد طريقتنا الصحبة والخير في الجميع صلى الله عليه وسلم.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, says, there are certain things which are dangerous. And these dangerous things are caused by the ego, and the greatest danger and threat caused by the ego is it is its desire to become famous, to become popular. People desire to become famous, and for that sake they do all kinds of things. The desire to become famous is a catastrophe, it's a calamity. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, describes the desire to become famous or to be famous, popular, as a calamity, because fame leads to the ego no longer being controlled. Those who desire to become famous, who are famous and popular, they will pump up their egos. And those who are driven by the desire to be more and more famous will be pumping up their egos to that extent that they will even wonder and look with astound at themselves and say, how important am I? What am I? And they will admire themselves.
Allah Azze ve Celle'nin verdiği şeyleri harap eder.
The ego destroys everything Allah Almighty has given.
Şöhret de işte nefsin en çok sevdiği şeylerden birisidir.
And fame and being popular is something the ego craves and desires the most.
Zamanımızda eskiden de vardı tabii.
And this desire to become famous always existed in former times.
Şimdiki iyicene millet azdı bu.
But these days people have gone wild in order to become famous.
Şöhret olayı nasıl olursa olsun her türlü şey yapabiliyor.
People these days do all kinds of things just to become famous, just to become popular.
Yani iyiden fazla kötü şeyleri.
They may do good things, but in fact, more than good things, they rather do so many bad things.
Yapıyorlar ki onun bir şey kazanıyoruz zannederler.
And they think by doing all those bad things and to become known, they think that they are obtaining something and they are winning something.
Halbuki kazandıkları değil, çok şey kaybediyorlar.
But they are not gaining anything, they are losing a lot.
Çok nimetler kaybediyorlar.
They lose a lot of divine favors.
Ama nefis Allah'ın hikmeti öyle bir şey ki.
But the ego has a very peculiar characteristic.
Onu kontrol etmezsen seni mahveder, harap eder.
And that very peculiar characteristic about the ego is that the ego is something that it needs to be controlled. And if you do not control your ego, it will ruin you, it will destroy you.
Kontrol edersen o vakit Allah yolunda olursun.
But if you control your ego, if you put reins on your ego, then you will be following the way of Allah Almighty,
Allah'ı sevindirirsin.
and Allah Almighty will be happy with you.
Peygamber Efendimiz sallallahu aleyhi ve sellem'i sevindirirsin.
The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, will be happy with you.
Allah Azze ve Celle kullarını doğru yolda olunca sevinir.
Allah Almighty wants His servants to be on the right way, and when He Almighty sees His servants to be on the right way, He is satisfied and happy.
Peygamber Efendimiz de aynı şekilde.
And this also applies to our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him.
Bu zaman kötü zamandır.
Now we live in a time which is characterized by being bad.
Onun için dikkat etmek lazım.
Therefore, since we live in bad times, we need to be very careful.
Herkesin yaptığı iyi değil.
Don't just do anything everyone does. Not those things everyone do are not necessarily good things.
Herkes yapıyor. Herkes şunu yapıyor. Herkes bunu yapıyor.
The fact that a lot of people do something is not a justification that what they do is actually good.
Herkes sonra hesaba çekilecek.
A lot of people do certain things, but because the fact that a lot of people do it does not mean that it's good. Everyone will be held accountable for what they did.
Herkes hesabını verecek. Bu adetleri, kötü huyları.
Everyone will give account on what they did. They will give account and be held accountable for their behaviors, their deeds.
Var olan cezasını çekecek.
And if you did something bad, if you behaved in a bad way, there's certainly an accountability you will have to give, and you will be held accountable for a bad behavior.
Kötü huylardan kurtulmuş olan Allah affeder.
But if you ask Allah Almighty for forgiveness and stop doing those bad things, Allah Almighty will be forgiving.
Allah af kapısı, mağfiret kapısı açıktır.
The gate of Allah Almighty's mercy, His door of mercy is open.
Onun için Allah muhafaza etsin nefsimizin şerrinden.
May Allah Almighty therefore protect us from the evil of our egos.
Bu kötü huylardan.
And may Allah Almighty protect us from these bad manners and from this bad behavior.
Allah hepimizi muhafaza etsin.
May Allah Almighty protect and preserve us all.
Çünkü bu zamanın en büyük fitnelerinden biridir bu da.
And this desire and craving to become famous and popular, it's a disease and it's the greatest fitna of our times we now live in.
Allah yardım etsin ümmete.
May Allah Almighty help the community of Muslims.
Allah muhafaza etsin.
May Allah Almighty protect us.
Tevfik. El-Fatiha.